Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Daf Hey. We begin 5 lines from the top, right back into our discussion regarding a mincha so'imer, that mincha offering made of barley, which is brought on the 16th day of Nisan, the second day of Pesach. The purpose of which is to be mater the new crop, which up until that point was considered chadash, right? The new grain was forbidden for consumption, after which, after the omer is brought, it is mutter, it is now permissible. So we learned yesterday, in the name of Rav, although typically a mincha which was offered shaloi lishma with the wrong intention is going to be kosher, but the owner has to bring a new one to accommodate his commitment. Mincha so'imer is different, says Rav. You know why? Because it failed to accomplish what it set out to accomplish. The whole purpose, the point, the objective was to be matir, right? To permit the new crop. And it hadn't done that. Because, as we said, it doesn't really count. It's not really considered a fulfillment, because it was shaloi lishma. So although the mincha typically would be kosher if it's shaloi lishma, but in this case it's different, because the objective was not accomplished. It's a failed mission. That's Rav's sheet. Continues the Gemara. Reb Shimon ben Lakish Amar. He disagrees. Rish Lakish holds that although the mincha indeed did not accomplish its objective, it was not mater the new crop, because it was shaloi lishma, it's not considered a fulfillment of the the mincha requirement. It wasn't done properly, so it can't really accomplish what it's meant to accomplish. But the mincha itself is still kosher. So you continue, you process it, you burn the kaimetz on the mizbeach, and the leftovers of this very mincha can be consumed as well, because the mincha itself is still kosher. Reb Shimon Lakish Amar mincha so'imer, even a mincha so'imer, which is a very specific mincha with a very defined objective, shekam to shaloi lishma, whose kmitza was done shaloi lishma, the mincha is still kshera, and the leftovers will be given to the kohanim. But wait, they have to wait it out until we in fact bring another mincha so'imer properly. That mincha so'imer will be mater the new crop, as well as the shiraim of the first mincha, because let's keep in mind, the material used in the first mincha is chadash, is as yet forbidden until mincha so'imer is processed properly, which didn't happen in the first mincha. So that shiraim has to wait on standby until the second mincha is brought, until the makeup mincha so'imer is brought, which will be mater the new crop, as well as the shiraim in the first mincha. V'shireh, and the leftovers of the first sort of failed mincha, cannot be eaten until you bring another mincha so'imer and fulfill your obligation properly, and that will give the green light to all the new crop, including the leftovers of the first mincha. Ask the Gemara, hold it. We all know that you cannot offer material which is forbidden for personal consumption. Mikra v'hechi karva. The question is, how could you burn the kaimas of the first mincha, which technically is comprised of material which is asur? Because as we explained, until the second new one is brought, the first material is asur for a person to eat. So likewise, you can't offer that forbidden material on the mizbeach. Mimashki Yisrael, we learn from a pasuk. Necheskel has to be something which can be offered to a Yisrael, to an ordinary person. Minamutal Yisrael, only that can be given to the mizbeach. Amar b'adabar ava. Interesting point, because over Shlokish holds it's not an issue in this case, because it's going to become permissible on the same day. Although 9 o'clock in the morning when the first mincha was brought, it's not yet. But 12 o'clock when you'll finally bring the second successful one, which will permit the material, it's considered like retroactively, like the first material was permissible because it all happened on the same day. within this one day of Beis Hamikdash activity, it's all considered like one unit, one entity, one unit of time. So we don't differentiate between 10 o'clock in the morning and 12 o'clock. So if it's going to be mutter sometime throughout this day, it is already considered in the permissible, category of materials. Because it's not considered lacking in time. It's not considered premature if it's going to happen on the same day. Since sometime today this material will be permissible, it is considered as such right now. I have a question on this point. We have a brayso which compares bird, karbanis to menachos. We have elements that we find by birds, not by menachos, and vice versa. There are some elements found by birds that you don't have by the menachos, and vice versa. You have some advantages by mincha, unfound by the birds. Here goes. What do we find by birds? Two individuals can offer a bird together as a partnership, something which you can't do by a mincha. Likewise, a bird is sometimes used for a mechusar kapara, like a person who's tummy, the zav, yeledes. They bring a bird as part of their process. Another interesting point you find by birds that you don't find by menachos, that the act of malika, of removing the bird's head from behind, that's something which is unique by karbanis. Only in the context of a karban can you do that, because typically doing so would render the bird an avela, a dead bird. You can't do shechita like that from the back of the neck, right? So there was a huter mechal yisurin, which means there's an exception within the general realm of Isser with respect to Kodesh, when it's done within a Kodesh context, within a Hakrava system. So all these elements are found by birds. Mashayik Menachos is not found by Menachos. A mincha cannot be brought as the partnership. Mechusar kapara don't bring Menachos, and there's no Isser that became mutter, by a mincha. And vice versa. There are unique elements found by a mincha. You need a kli, a kaimetz, right? The scoop you put into a kli. On the way to the mizbech or tenufa, you wave it back and forth. V'agasha, you tap the kli with the kaimetz to the corner of the mizbech. Just as a private person can bring a mincha, likewise the public. And all these things are not found by birds, mashaken by face. Now, if what you're saying, if what he's saying is true, that by a mincha so'emer that was done shlei lishma, although it's asr to eat because it's not yet, it's still chadash, right? Until you bring the second mincha. So in effect, this is a case of huter mechal yisurin b'kodesh. You're basically taking materials which is forbidden, which is asr for the ordinary man, and you're allowing it to the mizbeach. If that's correct, just like by a bird, you have hutar mechal yisurin, which we explained to pertaining to malika, the act of malika, which is typically something which forbids a bird for consumption for an ordinary person. Exception is made for the mizbeach. A similar exception we find by the mincha so'emer, that we allow burning, we allow offering of generally forbidden material. It's still chadash at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you can offer it on the mizbeach. Umayni mincha so'emer. An example of which is mincha so'emer, as we just explained. Well, says the Gemara, no, that wouldn't really qualify as an exception. As huta mechal yisurin. You know why? Because as we just explained, since it's going to be solved on the same day, there's no now and later. It's not like now it's asr and later it will be mutter. It's considered as though it's already permissible material for the mizbeach now, because it's going to become permitted today. And as we explained The term today in the Beis HaMikdash is like 1 unit in time. It's the day of Akravas Karbanos. Given the in Mechusar Zman Lo B'Yom, since something that's going to transpire today is considered as though it's happened already, it's not considered premature with respect to a development which will occur later today. In which case, this material is considered permissible already at 10 o'clock in the morning. La B'Yisuru. Masar Rav Sheshes. Really, that's true? That if something is going to develop today, we say, Ein Mechusar Zman, it's not considered early, it's not considered premature. Masar Rav Sheshes. Let's move on to a mitzvah where the kohen places some blood on his thumbs, and then on top of that he places the oil. Let's say he switched the order. He did it out of sequence. First he put the oil and then the blood. He has to redo it. So refill the container of oil, place the blood on his finger, and then follow with the oil after placement of the blood. Likewise, let's say he placed the blood on the mitzvah before he did the 7 sprinklings opposite the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So he did it out of order. Once again, you have to redo it. Refill the oil. Then do it in order. First the 7 sprinklings and then matan b'hinus. The question is, why is this necessary? Out of order, out of sequence, but it's the same day. It's not considered premature. Just imagine it being done properly, in the right order. If it's all the same day anyways. V'yamras, if you're going to tell me, time, the time factor is not a factor. If it's going to happen the same day, why does he have to redo it? My David, whatever was done. Leave it alone. Mitzvah is very different. Because the laws of Mitzvah are very absolute in terms of their sequence. Because we have the Lashon Havaya in the pasuk, which indicates absoluteness, exactness, in this order and in this order only. And the word tia tells you, leave it as is. The way I sequenced it, you can't reorder things. Here comes a question. Again, we say same day is not an issue. So first he meant to bring the asham of the mitzvah, and then the chatas. Suppose he did the chatas before the asham. It's possible. You can't, right? Let's say he did the shechita of the chatas first. You can't say, okay, let's hold on to the blood of the chatas, run back and do the asham, and then come back to the chatas. It's too bad. It's too late. It's possible. You can't have another kohen taking the blood of the chatas, holding on to it, stirring it to prevent congealment, to wait it out. No. El tuba terasa. The chatas is possible. You have to let it stay overnight until it sort of deforms. But it takes the place and go take it and burn it. Why? What's the issue? It was done too early? So what? It's all the same day anyways. And if it's the same day, time is not an issue. Says the Gemara, who's asking this question? Rav Papa? Rav Papa himself a minute ago told us that Matzah is an exception because it says Tiyeh. What's the question? I'm not going to Rav Papa. Why is Rav Papa asking this question at all? For Rav Papa, Rav Papa himself just told us Shani Ilchas Matzah halachas are very different. Tichsiv bu Havaya, where it says Havaya. Ela Rav Papa, rather Rav Papa Kashle was asking like this. The reason why he was asking was because here, what was done out of sequence? Just the shechita, right? He just did the shechita of the chatas early. Shechita is not really critical. Shechita, as we know from Menachos, from Zvachim, is not even considered an avoida. Even an ordinary person, a non-kohen, could do shechita. That would never have been an issue. Would not have been bound to the halacha of tiyah. Sequence, order, timing wouldn't really be critical regarding shechita. So then, what's the problem? That is out of order, right? Tiyah, the word tiyah doesn't pertain to shechita. So the only issue is that it was done out of order. But if it's the same day, timing is not an issue. That was his question. We can say hanamila avoida. The term tiyah, which indicates absoluteness, hanamila avoida pertains to things which are considered avoida, which must be done by a kohen, which are integral parts of the offering of the korban. Shechita, as opposed to the act of shechita lav avoida, is not considered avoida. So what's the problem? the shechita of the chatas preceded the shechita of the asham, if timing is not an issue regarding same-day activities, hold on to the blood and do the asham and then go back to the chatas. Let him stir the blood, offer the asham, and then go back to the chatas. If in fact, which was up until this point in the Gemara, the only way to properly address Rish Lakish is halacha. Let's go back. Rish Lakish told us halacha that a mincha sa'ima, which was done shlei lishma, is technically kosher, and you could burn the kaimets, even though it's forbidden material until you bring the next aimer, because it's all going to happen the same day and timing is not an issue. So we consider it permissible material already early in the morning. And we just asked on that. From a brayso, which indicates otherwise, that even if it's the same day, it's an issue. Says Rav Papa, I'll explain to you. Rav Shimon Lakish is halach. High in your time in the Rish Lakish. Why does Rish Lakish allow you to continue processing the mincha so'ima despite the fact that the material is as yet forbidden? High in your time in the Rish Lakish. Because Savar, he holds. Guess what? It's not forbidden. Once the sun rises on the 16th day of Nisan, the crop becomes mutter, regardless of whether or not the mincha sa'ima was brought. There's a mitzvah to bring mincha sa'ima on that day, but the arrival of that day, the day of the offering, the day that you're going to be makar the mincha sa'ima, that in itself clicks it and turns on the green light. So that solves the issue. Of course, the mincha sa'ima is mutter for hakrava because it's permissible material. It's already the day of hakrava. He'ir mizrach, it's a term describing the sunrise, right? The east lit up. Mater, that permits the new material. The Rabbi Yechna, Rish Lakish, in fact, we know that Rabbi Yechna and Rish Lakish both concur regarding this opinion. The Amrit Tabai, they both say, even when the Beis was standing and there was an obligation to bring Mincha So'emer, we don't actually need the Mincha So'emer to be matar the Nukra. Rather, the arrival of the 16th day of Nisan, Heir Mizrach, that's matter. How do we know that Rish Lakish had this view? But Rish Lakish, la beferish itma, actually wasn't an explicit lesson from Rish Lakish. Ela mechlal itma was derived from something else that he taught us. This not we have a Mishnah. Ein mevin mechas bikurim mechas nadab mehema koden lo emer. You're not meant to bring any karbanis, any offerings of the new crop before the Omer. Minachav bikurim. Some change it to Menachos ubikurim. Menachos be'ema is the typical mincha that accompanies a behema. It may be possible if you brought it before the Omer. It's possible because it's the new crop. It's not meant to be brought before the Omer. But let's say it's brought before the two breads on Shavuos. You see, what happens is the Omer is matar the new crop for personal consumption, but in terms of offering karbanis in the Beis Hamikdash, you meant to wait. You meant to wait until Shavuos when they bring the two breads. That sort of opens up the new crop for hakrava. That's only a lechatchila. It's not critical. So if he brings the new offerings from the new materials before Shavuos, you shouldn't do it. If maybe kosher, if he did it, it's okay. So says the Mishnah. Now Rish Lakish came and explained as follows. He quotes Amar Rish Lakish. When do we say that a carbon from new material offered before the Omer is passed? That's only correct. Elabar ba'asar, v'chamesh asar. If it's the 14th day of Nisan or the 15th day, then it's still before the day of hakrava of the Omer. Nothing doing. Aval b'shisha asar, but if it's already 16th of Nisan, which is the day of the Omer, maybe kosher. If he brings the new material as a carbon, it's kosher. Amal kasavar, apparently he holds. Why? Because technically this material is already mutter, even though the Omer was not yet offered, because the day itself permits it. Heir hamizrach mater, as we explained earlier. Okay, so in brief, we have so far two opinions regarding a Menachos Omer, which was offered Shlei Lishma. We had Rav yesterday who says nothing doing. It's a failed attempt because it set out to accomplish a very specific, defined mission to be mated the new crop, which it hadn't accomplished, unfortunately, because it was Shlei Lishma. So the mincha itself is possible. Reish Lakish, however, disagrees. He says, although you have to bring another mincha, you haven't really fulfilled your obligation because it was Shlei Lishma, but technically the mincha itself is kosher. Not only that, you can eat the material because the day itself is a matter. Here comes a third opinion. Rava. Rava says, no issue at all. Menachos Omer, Shlei Lishma, no problem. Not only is the mincha kosher, we need not bring another one. V'Rava Amar Menachos Omer, Shekamta Shlei Lishma Kshera, it's fully okay. V'Shira Necholan, the leftovers can be eaten. Here comes the punchline. There's no need to bring another one to fulfill the obligation and to permit the material. You know why? It's because any incorrect intentions or declarations that accompany a carbon are only deemed effective and detrimental if three conditions are met. Number one, if they were executed by an individual who's worthy, who's qualified for this avodah, as opposed to, let's say, a kohen who's a blemished kohen, has no business being involved in this carbon, so his thought process will not affect the carbon. Number two, with material that's suitable for hakrava, and thirdly, in a location, in a setting which is fit for avodah. So if you fit those three conditions, if you meet those three conditions, then machshava can be reckoned with and can serve to the detriment of the carbon, as opposed to Menachos Omer, which doesn't qualify. Why? So let's go through them one by one. First condition is b'mish roi lavoida, only if it involves a person who is roi, lafuki kohen balmum, as opposed to kohen balmum who has no business being there. So his machshava doesn't affect the carbon. Number two, u'adavar roi lavoida, material which is fit, lafuki Menachos Omer, as opposed to Menachos Omer, which is comprised of barley, which isn't your classic material, which isn't typical. So although we make exception for this carbon, but it's not considered roi lavoida, and therefore machshava doesn't affect it. Unbelievable. The it's not fit for typical carbon. The chiddush with something of an exception. So one exception, one off. So therefore says Rava, Shlei Lishma will not affect it. And thirdly, on condition that it took place in a makim, or a makim roi lavoida, as opposed to nifka mizbech, the mizbech was chipped, rendering it unsuitable for avodah. At that point in time, the kohen offers a carbon. Let's say he's doing shchita at that time, since there's no mizbech in place, there's no proper mizbech in place. There's no room for Shlei Lishma. Rashi says, let's say he does a kmitza of a kaimetz at that point, thinking pigul, thinking all these machshavos. While the mizbech is in this broken state, the pigul doesn't latch onto the carbon. If the mizbech was repaired on that same day, you can process the carbon. Okay, so we have three shittas regarding Menachos Omer Shlei Lishma. Completely pasul, completely kosher, or somewhere in the middle, which is Reish Lakish, it's kosher, and you can eat it, but you have to bring another one. Tanur Rabbanan. So we have a pasuk regarding a treifa. Okay, so now we shift over to the halachos of an animal carbon. So let's say the animal's a treifa, has a critical internal wound, which renders it unfit for personal consumption. It's asur, and likewise, we learn from a pasuk you can't offer it on the mizbech. But it's based on a pasuk. The question is going to be why a pasuk for this? Why do we need a pasuk to forbid offering a treif on the mizbech? Once we know that I can't eat it, certainly I can't give it to the mizbech. Based on al kal v'chomer, as we're going to see. Tanur Rabbanan. K'shoimer min habakar lamata. Why does the pasuk have to repeat the term min habakar, bring from cattle, which is a repetitive term? It already says it in the previous pasuk. You can offer cattle as a carbon. Shein tam alayim, it seems unnecessary. What's the purpose of this pasuk min habakar? to teach not all cattle are acceptable, only some, as opposed to a treifa. It's unacceptable. Elorad lohitzis a treifa to exclude a treifa. Valadina, why is that necessary? We can figure it out on our own based on a kavachemer. Valadina uma balmu. Look, a blemished animal. It's not an issue for an ordinary person, right? You can eat a blemished animal. It's still asur l'gavaya. You can offer it on the mizbeach. Certainly a treifa, which is asur for anybody to eat. Shasur l'hedit. Of course, wouldn't you agree? It's asur to bring it as a korban. In adin shasur l'gavaya. Why do we need a pasuk to exclude a treifa as a korban? Well, it's not so simple. And this is going to take us down all the way to the next Mishnah. To explain, to substantiate why the need for a pasuk to exclude, to forbid bringing a treifa as a korban. We can learn it from a kavachem. The answer is like this. It's not a simple equation. Sometimes, we find that at times, things that are asur for an ordinary person are still okay for a mizbeach. So I would think a treifa likewise. That's why we need a pasuk to exclude it. For instance, chelav adam, fats, blood, yechicha, disprove your point. Shasur l'hed, although they're asur for a hedyot, you can't eat chelav adam. U'mutar l'gavay, they're mutar for the mizbeach. Perhaps a treifa likewise. That's what I would think. And that's why I need a pasuk to exclude it. Well, no, you can't compare. It's not a fair comparison. Mal chelav v'dam shkein boy mechal heter. Chelav v'dam are mutar to the mizbeach. That's because they're extracted from behemoth, from an entity which is mutar for consumption. Okay, so that would explain why they're mutar to the mizbeach too, as opposed to the treifa, which is a complete isser entity. Nobody can eat a treifa in its entirety, and therefore, I wouldn't even think that it's mutar for the mizbeach. Well, malika techiach. Says the Gemara again, it's not so simple to derive an isser of treifa l'gavaya from a kavachemer of the balmum. You know why malika techiach? If you take a look at a bird that had malika, that will disprove your point. Shekulu isser, the whole bird in its entirety is asur for a regular person to eat. Basur lahedyot, right? Umateres l'gavaya, you can offer it on the mizbeach, perhaps a treifa as well. Once again, no. Mala malika shken kedushasa isarta. No, malika wouldn't really be an indicator of something which is asur for me and mutar for the mizbeach, because kedushasa isarta. What makes it asur to me? The act of malika, which is part of the kedushasa, which is the act of the akrava. That's what it generates. That's what creates the isser for an ordinary person. So that wouldn't be a reason to make it asur for the mizbeach. Of course, it's the opposite. As opposed to a treifa. The isser of treifa is unrelated to the kedusha, to the act of akrava. It's asur per se because of its natural, condition. So certainly, if it's asur for me, it's asur for the mizbeach. Why do we need a pasuk to make it asur for mizbeach? V'mei shavta. Well, says the Gemara. Is there any way to refute that kal v'chomer that we mentioned before? That's why we need a pasuk. When it says min habakar in the next pasuk, which is an extra expression, shein tamud leimar, the answer is loises hatreifa, to exclude a treifa. Now, what do you mean to say when you mention refuting the kal v'chomer? My mashafta. So again, let's just summarize the steps here. We have a pasuk of min habakar to exclude a treifa, to forbid bringing a treifa as a korban. Why was that necessary? We have a kal v'chomer. A balmum which is mutar for me is asur for mizbeach. Certainly a treifa which is asur to me is asur to mizbeach. Is there any way to refute that? We need a pasuk. Why would I refute it? As follows. Perhaps I cannot derive treifa from a kal v'chomer. I can counter as follows. Let's take a look at a menachos, which is an example of something which is asur for me and mutar for mizbeach. So you see, it's not a proper equation. I can't eat material of the Menachos Ha'omer. It's still considered Chadash as far as I'm concerned, until the Mincha is actually offered and burnt. You can offer it to Mizbeach. So interestingly, the Menachos Ha'omer in itself is sort of a revolving circle, because you use new material to offer the Menachos Ha'omer, which is meant to be matter, that it's that material in itself, which hasn't yet happened while you were makriv it. So technically, you're using forbidden material, something which is add yet forbidden to the ordinary person, and offering it as a carbon. There's the gavaya. So perhaps the treifa as well. It's also for me, motel gavaya. No, mana Menachos Ha'omer. Perhaps Menachos Ha'omer is different, has an advantage over everything else. Shkema Torah is chodesh because it has the ability to be mated the new crop, so it's all powerful. Maybe that sets it apart from everything else. The answer is b'shvius. What happens on the Menachos Ha'omer in the 7th year, where there's no new material to be mater, doesn't have that advantage. Well, shvius nami shkema Torah is svichah. Even in the 7th year, there are wild, growing materials, which is going to be permitted by this mincha. Right? Shkema Torah is svichen. The answer is Rakiva, going like Rakiva, the Amar svichen asur b'shvius. All the wild growing material is asur min Torah on the 7th year, so you don't have that. Amalei Rav Achbar Abel Rav Ashi, even according to Rav Akiva, we can point to an advantage that Menachos Ha'omer has. The Rav Akiva Nami literally, we can ask, even according to Rav Akiva, Mala Menachos Ha'omer Shkema Torah Chodesh b'chutz la'aretz. Even on the Shvius year, where everything in Eretz Yisrael is asur b'achilu, but in chutz la'aretz, outside Eretz Yisrael, there's no Shemitah. And the Menachos Ha'omer on that year will be mated, the new crop outside Eretz Yisrael. I feel even according to the opinion that Chodesh, the new crop, b'chutz la'aretz, growing outside Eretz Yisrael, lavdei rice, is not also min Torah. It doesn't have that need to become mutter. Still, the Menachos Ha'omer has an advantage over a treifa. It's more powerful. Why? Shekein bo lahater lavsha b'seicha. Because as we explained, the Menachos Ha'omer has to accomplish heter within itself. The offering of the Menachos Ha'omer permits its own self-material to the Mizbeach. Right? The leftovers of the mincha are now going to be eaten. So, although there is a svichen issue, any growth of Eretz Yisrael in the 7th year is asur, for going like that opinion, but it's still going to be matter the lav. There are two issues here. There's isur of svichen, there's the isur of eating new material, chadash. So, although technically you can't eat it because of the isur of svichen, but it suspends, it deletes the lav of chadash within itself. So it's a powerful process. It's a powerful carbon. So perhaps that's why it's mutter to be offered, as opposed to a treifa which doesn't have that. Okay, based on this analogy, treifa nami takriv v'tatilav shebeseicha. I can argue the same regarding the treifa. I would say, without the pasuk that forbids a treifa as a carbon, I can argue the same point. I could say, look, treifa is asur for me to eat, but by offering the treifa as a carbon, v'tater lav shebeseicha, it'll be matter its own lav. So basically, it's going to cancel the isser of treifa. The act of akrava somehow is going to take away the lav of treifa, because now it's considered a carbon on the mizbeach. So I would think so. I would think maybe the akrava can sort of transform it into something which is permissible, just like by the Menachos Ha'omer. And perhaps that's why we require a pasuk to forbid bringing a treifa. Maybe that explains the brisa. So what's the problem? The brisa. Rather, we can ask like this: You can't compare treifa to the omer. Minchas omer is mitzvasa b'kach. The Torah instructs us to bring a minchas omer exactly, precisely in this fashion. There's no other way to bring a minchas omer other than using new material. You have to bring the new crop and offer it as a mincha. So of course, it permits itself. Of course, the process is sanctioned. That's what the Torah required. As opposed to a treifa. Who says you have to bring a treifa? Who gave you this idea of bringing a treifa? You don't have to do that. You can bring a regular, kosher, a healthy behemoth. So once again, go back to square one. Of course, the treifa cannot be brought as a carbon. If I can't eat it, I can't offer it to Mizbeach either. So why would I need a pasuk for that? Continues the Gemara. We have other ways to explain the Brisa as well. Shlagashama. So again, the Brisa had a pasuk to exclude a treifa. Why a pasuk? We have a kal v'chomer. If the balmum is aser, of course the treifa is aser. Then the Brisa says, well, not necessarily so. We can't necessarily have a kal v'chomer to prove this point. We need a pasuk. Shlagash Amar, Shem Ne'ikal Meimar, Mefatim Akteres Yechiach. I can't necessarily learn the Isra Treifa from a kal v'chomer. If we take a look at Mefatim Akteres, a person who processes the Keteris, recipe. She'asa lehedyet. Umutar l'gavaya. It's also for an ordinary person, but it's mutar for the mizbeach. So just as that is mutar, perhaps the treif as well. Although it's also for me, it's mutar for the mizbeach. And that's why we require a pasuk. Ask the Gemara first of all, what do you mean? Mefatim gavru. Mefatim means the person who's actually putting together the various ingredients of the keteris. That's the person doing it. What do you mean to say it's mutar for gavaya? It's the person. The person is not aser, is not mutar. Ela pitum. Oh, we're talking about the material that was put together. Pitum akteris yechiach. This concoction, the keteris recipe that was put together. She'asa lehedi. That will disprove our point. Because here's an example of something which is aser for me to consume. I can use the keteris. I can't burn it for my own personal sake. But it's still mutar for the mizbeach, mutar l'gavaya. So perhaps a treifa as well. And that's why we need a pasuk. Well, no, malo pitum akteris. Once again, you can't show anything from there because that's something which is meant to be done this way. Torah says, look, this is how you make keteris, period. That's the one and only way of doing it. As opposed to a treifa. Who tells you to bring a treifa as a carbon? Why would I think it's mutar? I'll give you another reason why I would think the treifa is mutar l'gavaya. Mishum dikla meimer. We could say Shabbos yichichu. Take a look at every Shabbos. You can't do malacha on Shabbos, but you can bring a carbon on Shabbos. Shasur lehedit, muteres l'gavaya. You can't do personal malachas, but you can bring karbanos. Perhaps a treifa likewise. It's also for me, but mutar for the mizbeach. No, malach Shabbos shkein hushim mechlalat zehedit v'mila. Perhaps Shabbos is different because there's an exception regarding even an ordinary person. You could do mila, which is a malacha on Shabbos, so maybe that's why it allows karbanos. To mila tzarech hediti? Who? Mila mitzvah. Mila is not a indicator at all of an exception because mila is a mitzvah. It's not a personal need. Once again, just like Torah, we said mitzvah sabakach. The Torah specifies bring karbanos on Shabbos. There's no other way to do it. That's not an indicator regarding permissibility of treifa. Rav Ada bar Ava Omar Mashum Dikul Meimar. He has another argument. He says, look, kilayim yechichu. You can prove from kilayim. Shasur lehedyet. Shatnez, right? The mix of wool and linen is also for me to wear. You can use it for mizbeach, the Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim wore. There are garments which are comprised of wool and linen. So you see, it is necessarily linked one to the other. Something can be usher from me and mutter for the mizbeach, mutter for Beis Hamikdash. Likewise, a treifa, usher from me and mutter for mizbeach. Malak kalayim sheken hutzim mechlal etzl hedi betzitzis. Well, maybe kalayim has a disadvantage because there's an exception. It's hutzim mechlal and there's an exception from the general rule regarding, even regarding an ordinary person, regarding tzitzis. Tzitzis is comprised of wool and linen. Atu tzitzis tzarech. Why are you considering tzitzis personal needs? Mitzvah, it's a mitzvah. So perhaps likewise by the treifa, right? Even though I can't have a treifa for personal use, but I can use it as a mitzvah for the mizbeach. Once again, the same argument that's applied to the Ketores and to Shabbos can be applied to the Kilayim as well. Mitzvasa b'kach. The big Dikun are not kosher if they're not made of Kilayim. As opposed to treifa, who asked you to bring a treifa as a carbon. Rav Shisha b'der Ravida Amar. Let me explain to you the Bryce in my way. Why do we require a pasuk to exclude a treifa? Why can't I just learn simply from the Kal V'chomer? If a balmum is asur, is mutar lehedid asur l'gavaya, certainly a treifa which is asur for me, certainly asur for gavaya. Rav Shisha b'der Ravida Amar Mishum Dikol, maybe because I can argue as follows: Lahadar dina v'seiti matzat. It's true that if we take it individually, one by one, we look for examples of cases that show us, items or materials which are asur for a hedyot, for an ordinary person, but mutar l'gavaya. If you take it one by one, you can refute it and say, well, you can't compare. That's an exception. That's different than treifa. That's different than treifa. If you can bind them together and tie them together as sort of a single source, you could in fact arrive at that conclusion. You can conclude that at times things that are asur lehedid are mutar l'gavaya, and likewise treifa, despite it being asur for a hedyot, can be mutar l'gavaya if not for the pasuk. That explains the pasuk as follows: Lahadadin. Let's take this din, which means to say this formula, v'teisi matzad, and apply a matzad. Let's combine the various items and arrive at a common denominator. What is the commonality found in all? They're asur lehedyot and mutar l'gavaya. Let's start with malika. You're moilek a bird. I can't eat it, but you can offer it to the mizbeach. So what's the counter argument? Well, no, malika, it's mutar l'gavaya because that's the process of akrava. What made it asur? The act of akrava, the malika. So of course it's mutar l'gavaya. Mala malika shekain kedushasa kedusha, the process of the akrava aisarta, that generated the isur. Chelav adam yechicho. That can be disproven from chelav adam. There's no mass of kedusha that's making it asur for an ordinary person to consume. They're asur inherently, right? I can't eat chelav, I can't eat dam, and I can still offer it to the mizbeach. Perhaps the treifa as well. Well, you'll counter argue by saying, l'chelav adam, they're different. You can't buy mechalaheta because all of their themselves are asur material, but they're derived from a general animal which is mutar. So that's a mitigating factor. Let's go back to malika techiach. You can disprove that point from malika. Although the entire bird is asur, you can still give it to the mizbeach. V'chazar will go back and forth. Lo yirizeh, the element found in this one, which you're attributing the halacha to, is not found in the other one, so you can't attribute it to that point. V'lo yirizeh, likewise, vice versa. You can't say the reason why is because of this, because the other one doesn't have this, and it's still mutar l'gavaya, and vice versa. What's the common denominator? Despite the fact that they're asur for meat to eat, whether it's a bird that had malika, whether it's chelav adam, still, nevertheless, mutar l'gavaya, you can offer it on the mizbeach. Likewise, a treifa, I would think. Afani yavi treifa can include the treifa as well. Although it's asur to me, it's mutar for a mizbeach. And that explains why I need a pasuk of minabaka to exclude a treifa. One more question. Hold it. But let's look at another commonality between malika and chelav adam shekain mitzvasa b'kach. We have that mitzvasa b'kach card in both. whether it's a bird that had malika, or chelev adam that's offered on the mizbech, that's the one and only way to do it. The Torah instructs to do malika on a bird that's offered. The Torah instructs to burn chelev adam on the mizbech, to offer chelev adam on the mizbech. It's the only way to do it. Of course it's mutter. The Torah tells you to do it. As opposed to a treifa, who's to say you're allowed to bring a treifa on the mizbech? So why would I need a pasuk to exclude treifa? And this will go on until the next Mishnah. But Hashem will leave it for tomorrow. Okay, so in a nutshell, we discussed 3 shittas in Menachos Omer, Av Shalei Lishma, pasuk completely, kosher completely, or somewhere in the middle. And we discussed the need for the pasuk of Min HaBakar, L'Hoitz, etc. All the best to you, Natzlach.